Happy New Year and welcome to my first and, as usual, very exciting episode of Top 5 of the Week. For this year, we have changed our format ever so slightly to include not just a summary but a review of each recommended publication. This way, you get the information you really need. Let's get into it. In what constitutes the final deliverable under the assignment to develop a model welfare system for the African Union, its members, and African regional economic communities, this first recommendation breaks down migrant experiences through case studies in Ethiopia, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Kenya, Mauritius, and South Africa. It does justice to the diverse thematic dimensions of migration welfare through presentations offering readers detailed insight into labor migration trends and characteristics, specifically those pertaining to the aforementioned 6 countries. Continental and regional labor migration patterns in East, Southern, and West Africa, as well as comparative examples of migrant workers' welfare programs, is also detailed. It captures the challenges faced by international migrants in assessing social protection. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine dominated headlines in 2020. Without taking away from the depth of that crisis and its ripple effects, other humanitarian crises, notably in Africa, took a back seat and were underreported. This report by CARE makes a bold case for these. In fact sheet style, it drops the numbers on the media's blind spots in sidelining stories, including the chronically malnourished children in Niger, nearly 1 million people displaced in Cameroon, Angola facing its worst drought in 40 years, and 3.1 million people in need of humanitarian aid in Central African Republic. In essence, the brief invites the world to reflect on power imbalances in humanitarian reportage, and we are not complaining. In my third recommendation is a refreshing perspective on the opportunities for Mauritian manufacturing presented by the AFCFTA. Produced against the backdrop of Mauritius being one of the most open countries on the African continent, but having to close its borders due to the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in a significant reduction in production and a drastic fall in GDP from 2020 onwards. The report goes ahead to identify trade challenges currently being faced by Mauritius and offers ways to solve these problems in the country's context, with a special focus on expanding regional trade. The report also recommends that the Mauritian public and private sectors harness the opportunities in digital and online infrastructure to strengthen value chains and enable them to meet future challenges. While I usually find annual reports tedious to read, Chatham House's 2022 annual report celebrating 20 years of their Africa program was easy to read in 24 pages. It highlighted some milestones, including convening over 1,400 events, hosting political leaders, world-renowned experts and stakeholders to explore critical issues in the politics and international relations of African states. This year, the Africa program is looking to establish a visiting fellowship for citizens of African countries to spend time at Chatham House and participate in the Institute's research on African countries and contribute to analysis of geopolitical shifts that place Africa at the center. If you want to know more, you should check out their website. Closing out with a recommendation equally as interesting as the rest is one that attempts to answer the question, what will it take to achieve gender-transformative climate finance? In this report, you would find a roadmap on how donors can facilitate women climate entrepreneurs' access to appropriate climate finance, thereby contributing to greater equality and inclusion in sub-Saharan Africa. Recommendations include support for innovative finance at the nexus of gender and climate, support for intermediaries and financial services providers and investors, equipping women climate entrepreneurs with information, knowledge, and skills to access climate finance on equitable terms, and enabling opportunities for them to have access to mentoring, networking, and success stories. That's it, but before I go, do not forget to send us your recommendations to be featured on our next episode. Take care and goodbye.